I arrived at my sister's wedding, gave the coordinator my name, and she instantly froze. Her eyes dropped to the clipboard in her hands, and the color drained from her face as she stumbled over her words. I'm so sorry. Your name was crossed off the guest list this morning. I slowly turned toward my mother, who was standing only a few feet away in her custom silk gown, casually sipping champagne like nothing had happened. She didn't even flinch. Instead, she flashed a cold, smug smile, leaned in just enough for everyone nearby to hear, and said, "Why would we invite someone who isn't really family?" Every single person in the lobby went silent, staring at us. I felt the sting hit my chest, but I wasn't about to give her the satisfaction of watching me fall apart. I looked her straight in the eye, gave one calm nod, and said, "Then today is the last time you'll ever see me as family." Without another word, I turned around and walked out. What my mother didn't realize, though, was that while she was busy playing her little games, my phone was holding the key to her entire financial world. Before we get into it, drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from. I'd love to see just how far this story reaches. My name is Wendy Myers, and I'm 34 years old. The morning air outside Grand Oaks Manor was crisp, carrying the scent of fresh white lilies mixed with expensive perfume. I stood in the marble entrance, smoothing the front of my dusty rose dress. I was nervous, sure, but also excited to celebrate my younger sister Chloe's wedding. I walked over to the reception table where a young coordinator in a sharp black suit was checking guests in. "Name, please?" she asked with a polite professional smile. "Wendy Myers," I answered. She scrolled through her iPad before flipping through the printed guest ledger clipped to her board. Suddenly, her hands stopped moving. Her face turned completely pale as her eyes darted between the page and me. I'm so sorry, ma'am," she stammered, clearly shaken. "Your name was crossed out in red marker this morning. My instructions are very clear. You're not permitted inside." Before I could even wrap my head around what she'd just said, a sharp voice echoed through the foyer. "Is there a problem here?" It was my mother, Eleanor. She glided toward us in a custom navy silk gown, holding a crystal champagne flute. She didn't look embarrassed or surprised. She looked downright triumphant. "Mom, what's going on?" I asked, my throat tightening. "Why is my name crossed off the list?" Eleanor took a slow sip of champagne before fixing those cold, steel gray eyes on me. Then she leaned in just enough for the nearby guests and groomsmen to catch every word. "Why would we invite someone who isn't really family?" she whispered with a cruel little smile. The entire lobby went dead quiet. A familiar ache settled in my chest, and tears threatened to surface. But there was no way I was giving her the scene she wanted. I took one slow breath, met her gaze, and nodded. "Then today is the last time you'll ever see me as family." My voice stayed calm, almost eerily calm. Then I turned around, walked through the glass doors, and stepped into the bright morning sunlight, leaving her standing there in all her expensive silk and fake elegance. I climbed into my car and gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. The quiet rumble of the engine was the only sound cutting through the silence of the parking lot. Through the tinted windshield, I watched guests dressed in designer suits and elegant floral dresses stroll toward the beautifully landscaped gardens. They were walking into a celebration of family. I had just been thrown away like yesterday's trash. I leaned my head against the seat and let the memories roll in. I was adopted when I was 5 years old. My late father, Richard, welcomed me into his home and gave me his last name. To him, there was never any difference between me and a biological child. I was simply his daughter. Period. A few years later, Chloe was born. And for a long time our family genuinely felt complete. Then everything changed. 4 years ago, Dad lost his battle with cancer. The moment he was gone, the balance inside our home disappeared with him. Eleanor's quiet preference for her biological daughter turned into open hostility toward me. I became an outsider under my own roof. A constant reminder of the husband she'd lost and the daughter she never truly wanted. Even so, I stayed loyal. When Eleanor struggled to keep up her luxurious lifestyle after Dad's estate entered probate, I stepped in without hesitation. As my corporate consulting business took off over the past 3 years, I quietly carried her financial burdens. I paid off her high-interest credit cards, covered the leases on her luxury cars, and handled the maintenance costs on her townhouse. I did every bit of it because I honestly believed that if I kept showing up for her, maybe, just maybe, she'd finally love me. Sitting alone in that parking lot, staring back at the grand entrance of Grand Oaks Manor, the truth finally hit me. Eleanor didn't hate me because I kept my distance. She hated me because she needed me. And deep down, she resented every single dollar she depended on me for. I shifted the car into drive, pulled away from Grand Oaks Manor, and headed 2 miles down the winding coastal road until I reached a quiet coffee shop overlooking the bay. I pulled into a quiet little coffee shop overlooking the bay and grabbed a corner table by the window. After setting down my leather portfolio, I opened my iPad and logged into my secure banking portal. As the financial dashboard loaded, the cold reality of Eleanor's arrogance unfolded right in front of me, black and white. She honestly believed she had everything under control. She thought she was some master strategist, publicly humiliating me to prove she was in charge and boost her social standing. What she completely failed to understand was that the comfortable life she'd been showing off was built on a foundation I personally owned. 6 months earlier, after Chloe got engaged, Eleanor had shown up at my office in tears. She claimed a traditional wedding at Grand Oaks Manor was way beyond her budget, and begged me to help make Chloe's dream come true. She kept saying Chloe deserved a fairy tale wedding that would impress her wealthy future in-laws. Out of love for my sister, I said yes. I didn't just hand over a generous gift. I used my consulting firm's corporate credit line to guarantee the venue contract, the master catering agreement, and the premium floral package. On top of that, the luxury bridal suite, the open bar authorization, and the private transportation were all tied directly to my primary corporate account. Eleanor was listed as nothing more than an authorized user. She figured that because my name was on every major contract, I'd quietly pay the final invoices just to avoid family drama. She really thought I cared more about keeping the peace than keeping my self-respect. In her mind, she could strip away my dignity while still expecting my wallet to stay wide open. No way. I stared at the active payment dashboard on my screen, watching the pending authorization holds for the reception glowing in green. For the first time all morning, everything felt crystal clear. Eleanor wanted a family where I didn't belong. Fine. It was time for her to find out exactly what happens when the outsider walks away. I took another slow sip of my black coffee, letting the warmth settle my nerves before checking the time on my phone. 11:15 a.m. The garden ceremony was scheduled to finish in 15 minutes. After that, everyone would head into the ballroom for the expensive reception she'd worked so hard to show off. It was go time. I opened my corporate banking app, navigated to the administrative settings, selected Eleanor's authorized user profile, and with 2 simple taps, permanently revoked her purchasing privileges. Then I canceled the linked corporate card. A green confirmation message immediately appeared across the screen. Done. Next, I called my business account manager directly. "Good morning, Wendy," Marcus answered. "How can I help you today?" "Hi, Marcus," I replied calmly. "I need to report a breach of contract involving my corporate guarantee with Grand Oaks Manor." There was a brief pause. "I'm officially revoking the corporate credit authorization for today's event, effective immediately. Please place an immediate hold on the remaining $45,000 balance and decline every authorization request from their vendor merchant accounts." "Understood," Marcus replied without hesitation. "Your corporate guarantee has now been canceled, and all related merchant holds have been locked. The requests will be declined." "Perfect. Thank you." After ending that call, I immediately contacted the Grand Oaks Manor billing department. The finance director answered within moments. I professionally explained that the primary corporate entity guaranteeing the event was withdrawing all financial responsibility due to unauthorized contract modifications made by the secondary party. He thanked me for the notification and confirmed the information had been documented. I ended the call, closed my iPad, and leaned back in my chair. That was it. I hadn't yelled. I hadn't cried. I hadn't embarrassed anyone in public. I simply removed the invisible support beam that had been holding up Eleanor's entire illusion of luxury. Now all that was left to do was sit back, sip my coffee, and let gravity do the rest. For real, the rest was about to unfold all on its own. Back at Grand Oaks Manor, the wedding ceremony had just wrapped up. The grand brass doors of the ballroom slowly swung open as nearly 200 elegantly dressed guests poured inside, expecting an evening filled with gourmet food, flowing champagne, and non-stop celebration. Eleanor floated through the crowd like she owned the place, smiling as guests complimented her designer gown and the over-the-top decorations she had been bragging about for months. Beside her, Chloe looked radiant in her ivory lace wedding dress, proudly holding her new husband's arm as they prepared for their official entrance. Then everything changed. The atmosphere shifted in an instant. The venue's general manager, a tall man with a serious expression, approached Eleanor with 2 security guards walking just behind him. In his hands was a leather-bound tablet flashing several bright red warning notifications. "Mrs. Vance," he said calmly, though his voice carried far enough for nearby guests to hear, "we have a critical issue." Eleanor gave a small laugh and casually waved her champagne flute. "What kind of issue?" she asked. "The primary payment method covering the remaining venue balance, the catering services, and the open bar has just been declined." She chuckled again. "That's impossible. It's a corporate account. Just run it one more time." "We already did," the manager replied, his tone becoming noticeably firmer. "The primary account holder personally revoked the corporate guarantee and canceled every merchant authorization approximately 10 minutes ago." He paused before adding, "Under venue policy, unless the outstanding $45,000 balance is paid immediately, we're legally required to suspend bar service and pause all catering operations." The smile disappeared from Eleanor's face. Fast. Her confidence evaporated almost instantly. She fumbled for her phone, quickly trying to call the bank. Before she could even dial, her screen lit up with one automated notification after another. Authorized user status revoked. Corporate card deactivated. Purchasing privileges terminated. There was no mistake. This was real. Whispers spread across the ballroom like wildfire. Guests exchanged confused glances while servers suddenly stopped passing appetizers through the crowd. Champagne service came to a halt. The festive music suddenly felt awkward against the growing silence. People started asking questions. What happened? Is there a payment problem? No way, seriously? Within seconds, the elegant celebration Eleanor had worked so hard to impress everyone with began falling apart right in front of her. Her face flushed a deep shade of red. The smug smile she'd proudly worn all morning completely vanished, replaced by pure panic. Without saying another word, she hurried into the private bridal suite and slammed the door behind her, desperate to escape the eyes of nearly 200 stunned guests. Inside the room, Chloe was falling apart. She was hyperventilating, mascara running down her cheeks as she sobbed into her hands. Eleanor's own hands shook uncontrollably as she searched through her contacts before finally pressing my name. My phone rang. I glanced at the screen, took another slow sip of coffee, and answered on the third ring. "Wendy," Eleanor screamed, every ounce of her earlier confidence completely gone. "What did you do?" "The venue manager shut down the bar, canceled dinner, and they're threatening to close the entire reception. You need to fix this right now." I leaned comfortably against the booth, completely relaxed. "Why would I fix it, Eleanor?" "Because it's your sister's wedding," she yelled. "You're ruining the happiest day of her life over one stupid misunderstanding. For real, how can you be this selfish?" A misunderstanding? I asked quietly. My understanding is pretty clear. You stood in front of everyone and announced that I wasn't really family. I let the silence hang for a moment before finishing. So I simply followed your rules. If I'm not family, then why would a non-family member pay $45,000 for a family wedding? The line went completely silent. Not a single word. Just heavy breathing. Finally, Eleanor spoke again, but this time the anger had disappeared. Wendy, please, she whispered, her voice trembling with desperation. We can talk everything out later. Just reactivate the corporate card. I shook my head, even though she couldn't see me. No, Eleanor. Then I added one final truth. And while you're busy figuring out how to pay the venue, here's something else you should know. On Monday, I'm withdrawing my personal guarantee on your luxury townhouse lease. Since I'm apparently not family anymore, I won't be paying your rent either. In the background, I could hear Chloe crying hysterically as Eleanor gasped, finally realizing the full weight of the disaster she had created with her own cruelty. I took one last sip of coffee. Have a lovely reception. Then I ended the call. In the end, Eleanor had no choice. To keep the venue from throwing everyone out into the parking lot, she emptied what was left of her emergency savings and maxed out 3 of her personal credit cards right there on the spot. The glamorous, high society wedding she had spent months bragging about quickly turned into the talk of the town, and not in the way she had imagined. Guests whispered nonstop about the unexpected payment crisis, the delayed dinner service, the suddenly limited open bar, and the awkward disappearance of the bride's mother during what was supposed to be the biggest celebration of the year. No matter how hard Eleanor tried to save face, the damage had already been done. Word spread fast. Within a month, the full weight of her financial reality finally came crashing down. Without my support, she simply couldn't keep up the lifestyle she had worked so hard to show off. Unable to afford the luxury townhouse on her own, Eleanor was forced to move into a modest one-bedroom apartment on the other side of town. It wasn't glamorous. It wasn't impressive. But it was the reality she had spent years pretending she could avoid. Chloe also struggled to move past what happened. The humiliation surrounding her wedding became impossible to ignore, and as the weeks went by, she slowly grew distant from her mother. The very woman who had been so determined to impress everyone ended up isolated from the people she cared about most. In the end, Eleanor was left completely alone inside the world she had worked so hard to build. As for me, walking away from that family was the most freeing decision I have ever made. For years, I'd poured my time, my energy, my love, and thousands upon thousands of dollars into people who only valued what I could do for them. The moment I stopped funding their lives, they made it crystal clear how little they actually valued me. That truth hurt, but it also set me free. Instead of wasting my money trying to earn love that was never coming, I invested it where it truly mattered. I focused on growing my consulting business. I bought the dream home I'd always wanted. I surrounded myself with genuine friends who loved and respected me for who I was, not for what I could pay for. Looking back now, I don't regret walking away. Not even for a second. Sometimes the healthiest choice isn't fixing a broken relationship. Sometimes it's finally realizing that some people only keep you around because you're useful. And once you recognize that, you've got to choose yourself. Blood alone doesn't make people family. Love, respect, loyalty. Those are the things that truly matter. Removing myself from their toxic world gave me the peace I'd been searching for my entire life. For real, it was the best decision I ever made. Now I'm curious. What would you have done? If your own mother crossed your name off the guest list at your sister's wedding? Would you have pulled the financial support like I did? Or would you have handled it differently? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. I genuinely want to hear what you'd do. And if you enjoyed the story, don't forget to hit that like button. Subscribe to the channel and stick around for more unforgettable family stories where karma always has a way of showing up.